Private, yeah. See my whole team and you know where to find us. Yeah, you know where to find me. Hey, I'm drowning in grace. When I look at my...
Hello everyone, my name is Gweth, and in today's video I'll be sharing with you guys tips and advice around protective styling. In today's video I'll be specifically tackling 5 major things. Number 1 will be the purpose of protective styles. Number 2, I'll be giving examples. And number 3 will be how to choose your protective style. Number 4 will be the before and during the protective styles, like practices you should do to keep your hair healthy before the protective style and during the protective style. And then number 5 will be the takedown process. I actually have my notebook here. I just wrote down some points so that I don't forget what I wanted to share with you guys. Protective styling is actually used to refer to the hairstyles that we do where we keep our hair covered and protected with zero manipulation for an extended period of time. Basically, if you plait your hair and during the time that you decide to keep that hairstyle, you're not undoing it and replaiting it every few days, you're not combing your hair, you're basically not touching your hair during that extended period of time, you're actually doing protective styling. The main purpose of a protective style is to keep your hair protected, hence the term, and to keep your hair healthy for an extended period of time so that it can grow without being disturbed. Basically, it's like taking a break from weekly manipulation so that you can just let your hair rest. Most people have this misconception that protective styles give your hair length. They don't. Your hair is always growing. The only difference is because your hair is not being manipulated, you actually see the growth at the end of the protective style. When you're taking down your hair, you'll notice that it looks longer or it's thicker. Protective styles can be kept anywhere from 4 weeks and more. I've actually heard of some people who can keep their protective style for 9 months, and I guess in between they do some maintenance, and that's amazing. If your hair can handle that, that's amazing. Basically, the time you should keep your protective style in depends on you and what your hair can handle, what you're comfortable with. So you can choose to do it for 4 weeks, you can choose to do it for 2 months, you can choose to do it for 3 months, 5 months, or 9 months, 7 months. There are so many examples of protective styles. There are 4 locks, box braids, triangle braids, knotless braids, there's wigs, there's weaves, there's 4 locks, I think I said 4 locks, there's temporary dreadlocks. You can do long twists like what I did. I actually have a tutorial on that. If you haven't watched it and you'd like to do a protective style yourself on moisturized hair, you can go watch my last video. Braided bantu knots, feed-in cornrows, there's puffs, you know, the extension puffs, like I think you plait your hair and then they put an extension puff that is very similar to natural hair. Basically, all these styles that you're going to keep for more than 4 weeks, that's a protective style. How do you know that if I do this style, it's actually going to work for me? It's easy, but it's also a little complicated. It involves trial and error and experimenting, but it's not so hard. Let me give you some pointers. Number 1. If you've tried a style before and it didn't give you any of those little red bumps along your hairline, it's a good style. Number 2, if you've done a style before and you didn't get any flakes within the first week, that's a good style. Number 3, if the style was easy to install, like it didn't demand too much of you, you know, in terms of the expense, in terms of the installation process, in terms of applying heat or not applying heat. Like for you, it was actually comfortable. That's a good style. Number 4, if you do a style and at the end of the style, you've actually seen progress in your hair, like your hair is healthier or it's thicker and it's a little longer, then that's a good style because it actually helped. Number 5, if you do a hairstyle and it's not heavy, like extremely heavy on your hair, that's a good style. And if it's a little harmful, like you have to put high amount of heat in order to do this hairstyle, or you have to comb your hair so much and you're losing a lot of hair when you're preparing for this hairstyle, it's not a good one. Just leave it. It's pretty obvious that type 4 hair needs a lot of moisture, and if you're going to keep your hair in one hairstyle for an extended period of time, you need to prepare it before and make sure it's really healthy before you put it in this style. So before doing a protective style, I personally like to make sure I've treated my hair and I've moisturized it properly. I actually made a video specifically on how I prep my hair for protective style. The label is a prep routine. I'm going to link it in the description box below so that you guys can see what I did with my hair before I plaited the long twists. Also do DIY hair masks depending on what your hair needs. For example, if your hair is feeling a little dry, it needs moisture. So you can look up DIY hair masks for dry hair. Or if your hair is feeling weak, it's breaking a lot, you can also be specific and look for those. There's so many online, I don't know them offhand, but they're so easy to make. Anything that's complicated, there's something up with it. You have to wash your hair. Make sure your hair is clean before you do a protective style. Because once you do that protective style, getting your hair as clean as possible is not as easy. Coming from someone whose scalp is dry, meaning I have to wash my hair every week or at least every 2 weeks, even when I'm in a protective style, it's not easy. It's not easy. Yes, it will keep my scalp clean, but what about the rest of my hair? So before you do a protective style, wash your hair properly. If you've been doing core washes for a period of time, make sure you use an actual shampoo so that you can clarify your hair, remove all the dirt, and make sure your hair is clean before you do your protective style. Make sure your hair is completely detangled before you do your protective style. That way you don't do your protective style on top of tangled hair that already has knots. And then at the end of your protective style, you know, you have to remove the shed hair, which typically mixes itself with the other strands of our hair, and it's now mixed with the knots that were already there. It will be so frustrating. Even if you're going to apply heat to your hair to blow dry your hair or straighten it in order to plait your protective style, you still need to make sure your hair is moisturized before that. Moisturized hair doesn't mean wet hair. Moisturized hair is just healthy hair. Basically, after you've washed your hair, spray some water and seal that with oil and wait kidogo, wait for it to absorb. And then now you can go and do your blow dry, whatever, and then plait your protective style. If you're like me and you don't like blow drying your hair or straightening it before protective style, you can go check out my video on how I plaited my long twists, because I showed exactly how I moisturized my hair, but I still kept it kind of stretched while I was plaiting it. So I hope that helps you. I'm going to make a detailed video on this later on, but you need to make sure your scalp is doing okay throughout the protective style, not just at the beginning, throughout. It's very important because your scalp is where your hair grows from. So if it's not healthy and it's not clean, your protective style won't be very effective. That's number 1. Number 2 is that you need to make sure that your hairline has no tension. Like if you're going to style your braids, for example, you're going to put it in a ponytail, don't do it too tight, just do it comfortably. Make sure those cornrows are not too tight. It's like you're plaiting the scalp. No. Then the last thing is, if you notice you're having dandruff, wash your hair. Please wash your hair. It really helps. And not just dandruff, you need to wash your hair at some point during that protective style. Guys, we need to stop being impatient and rough when you're undoing your hair after a long-term protective style. Like, I mean, seriously, your hair has been in this style for long. How do you think you're just going to take 1 hour to undo everything? How? Doesn't make sense. If you tell me you took at least 4 hours, you can even take 2 days, 3 days, fine, to undo your hairstyle, that makes more sense to me. Because you have to undo the hair carefully. You have to be gentle. You have to remove the buildup. You can't just take 30 minutes or an hour and you're telling me you've undone your hair. Like, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. And if they're doing that to you in a salon and then you're seeing like a whole hairball on the floor, that's a huge problem. It was last year. I was undoing a style where I had done matutas and plaited on top of the matutas, and I kept that for about 3 months. So of course when taking down it was really difficult, but I made a tutorial on how exactly I undid those matutas. So you can go watch that. I'll also link it down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. Subscribe if you haven't already and like this video. Leave a comment if you have any questions or just other tips that you have. I'll answer or I'll like them if I see them. And I'll see you in my next video.